Let's start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have completed 4 verses of this beautiful Dakshinamurthy Stotram by Adi Shankaracharya. And what we have seen so far in the first verse is about the Jiva. And the Jiva experiences the different states of consciousness. The first verse tells us that there is one self in us which is a witness to all the states. The Jagrat Avastha, the waking state, the dream state, both are objects of awareness. That is what is said in the first verse. In the second verse, the Tat Pada, that means the description of the Lord is given as from that consciousness existence principle, this entire world comes like a seed from which the sprout, the plant, the tree, the fruit, they all come. So in both these verses, we must understand one very important fact which is getting revealed is normally we experience I am the body, I am someone separate from the world. Aham means this body, idam means the world. The entire world is taken as idam, this. What Vedanta says is this aham and idam are not two separate things. Aham and idam are not two separate things, they are one entity. And that one entity is called as Atma. This difference which we see, Bheda, is a superficial difference seen because of our sense organs contacting the world. This is a point we should remember. What is getting revealed is one Vastu. That Vastu is called as Atma. It is also called as Brahman. It is also called as pure awareness. So the essence behind the Jiva is this pure consciousness or awareness. The essence behind the whole world, which we normally call it as Ishvara, is this awareness principle. So the first verse and the second verse are talking about Tvam and Tat Pada. When we look at the Mahavakyam, Tat Tvam Asi, it consists of Tvam Pada and Tat Pada. And in the third verse, Yasyaiva Spuranam Sadatmakam Asat Kalpartakam Bhasate Sakshat Tattvamasi Veda Vachasa Yobhodayat Yashritan. This verse talks about the oneness between the two. This is the ultimate realization, Asipada. And what does it say? Whatever the jiva is, you remove the superficial elements of the five gross elements, the subtle body, you remove it. What remains in essence is the Sakshi principle from the jiva. How do I identify this Sakshi? Sakshi is nothing else but the one which is aware of all the thoughts, emotions in the mind. This is how Sakshi is defined in the Vedas. And from the Tatpada, that means from the entire totality of the five gross elements and the five subtle elements, I retain the existence portion, because everything else is experienced as is, which is called as Sat Vastu. And in the third verse, what he is saying is this Sat is nothing else but Chit. The Chit, which is the bottom line of the Jiva, is the same as the Sat principle of the totality. Pure existence and pure consciousness is the ultimate essence of this entire cosmos. How do I experience this in myself? If you ask, the Upanishads say that all of us are this pure existence consciousness principle when we are experiencing our sleep state, but we are not aware of it. We are the same in the waking state also. We are also the same in the dream state also, because this Sat Chit does not change at all. It is a changeless entity. That is what I am in my sleep state. I am the witness of the blankness of the sleep condition. It is the easiest way to realize my nature. This has been explained in three Upanishads: Prashna Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. They have sections in them which deals with Sushupti Avastha. And in those portions of the Upanishads, it clearly says that I, the Atma, am in my original condition. I am that pure Sat Chit Atma. And because of lack of knowledge, I assume that this body is me. This mind is me. This is an incidental nature of mine, which I experience in the Jagrat and Swapna Avastha. And in Sushupti Avastha, what happens? Sushupti means sleep state. Both this, all my experienced objects, they resolve into one condition that is called as Avyakta Avastha. Avyakta means unmanifest condition. So if I have to realize myself, I must go beyond this manifest condition of the universe, beyond the unmanifest condition in the sleep state, and own up what lies beyond manifest and unmanifest, which is what is called as the consciousness principle. One Vastu, which is the essence, the substratum for the individual and the entire cosmos. This is how Shankaracharya brilliantly explains the most difficult principles in the Upanishads in three short verses. Tvampada, Tatpada, Asipada, three verses. The entire essence of the Veda is brought out in these three verses. To understand the principle a little bit more, the fourth verse was explained, Nana chit khato daristitamaha deepak prabha bhaswaram. What is the nature of this essential entity? The nature is consciousness. And how is this? This is self-evident consciousness. Very important point, because every time we always keep looking out for Atma as an object. This verse clearly says it is like a Deepak Prabha Bhaswaram. That means it is a self-evident consciousness. It does not require the body medium or the mind medium or the world medium to reveal itself. So that is why in sleep state, all of us say, I had a good time, I relaxed, I was blissful. Normally for a jnani, the sleep state is a state of experience of his own Atma. For a ajnani, it is tamas. It is tamas, it is covered, that nature of sleep is covered. It is by tamas, which is a guna. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, you might be familiar with this from the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So for a normal person, sleep is a condition where he is just resting and he wakes up next day morning. But for a jnani, sleep is not a blank state, or for a jnani, it is a state of realization of his own nature. Then he can live in the Jagrat Avastha with that, knowing that is his nature. He can then conduct his life in the Jagrat Avastha as per his prarabdha karma. The body is linked to prarabdha karma, the mind is linked to prarabdha karma, but Atma has no connection with any vasanas or prarabdha karmas. And this is the knowledge which he has. This knowledge, how does it express in the waking state? That is what is described in the 4th verse, which says that like you keep a lamp inside a jar, and in the jar, if there are holes, the light will come out through those 5 holes at night time. You can see the 5 beams. Similarly, when the mind is woken up by the Atma, because of prarabdha karma, it lights up the mind. Atma lights up the mind as though, and then what happens is this light is transferred to the sense organs, the 5 sense organs. The 5 sense organs, they reveal the sense objects, they interact with the sense objects, and the entire transaction takes place in the waking state. And in the dream state is just a projection of the mind with the vasanas. It is not an actual transaction, but it is only a projection, pratibhasikam. Whereas Jagrat is called as Vyavaharika. This is how the Lord has built this entire creation. The jivas, they exist in this body as the soul. They enter the body, they take up this body to have experiences throughout their life of 100 years. They experience joy and sorrow. And some rare jivas, they come and learn Dakshinamurthy Stotram, from which they come to realize their own nature. That Lord who lights up the knowledge in our own intellect is this Dakshinamurthy. So these 4 verses are the essence behind the entire Dakshinamurthy Stotram. This 4th verse is also depicted in Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, and as the mantra which we chant while doing the arti, and na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam, that mantra, it only reveals the fact that this arti which we are performing, or the light which we are lighting up, the lamp which we light up every day in our house, at that time we can chant this na tatra suryo bhati. That shloka can be chanted. What we are saying is there is this consciousness, Atma principle, which is there, which is the ultimate light, based on which the entire transactions take place in the entire cosmos. So what we are saying is that small camphor light which we are showing to Bhagwan, what we are saying is, how can I light you up? Because you are the light of all lights. It is a reminder to all of us that what we are lighting up is only just an example, just a reminder to let our minds go deep into our hearts and think about that pure consciousness principle, which we call it as God. Now, after having done this, if this teaching is clear, then Shankaracharya, in the 5th verse, he starts attacking all other philosophers. When we read this verse, we can also understand how wrongly we can perceive the world. When we do not have the knowledge of this Atma, Vastu, that pure consciousness, we also are deluded. All the delusions in the intellect are depicted in the 5th verse. Let's go now directly to the 5th verse and see how does that explain the nature of consciousness and how people are truly misled by Deham pranindriyani api chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu stribala anda jadopamas ahmati brantha brisham vadinaha maya shakti vilasi kalpitamaha vyamohar samharine tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Vyamoha samharine. Samharine refers to Lord Shiva. That consciousness principle is nothing else but Lord Shiva, who takes out, who is the resolving ground for the entire cosmos. Because in this cosmos, all this cosmos is resolved into that pure consciousness. Every day we experience it. There is nothing new which as an experience. All of us have got the experience of pure Chaitanya. Only thing we don't know is that is my real nature. And we have mistaken the body as our real nature. Body is an incidental nature. Whereas pure awareness is my intrinsic nature. That is what we should clearly understand. So in this verse, what he says is, he who removes all the misconceptions. And how are these misconceptions created? They are all created by Maya. Maya means it is a power. It is a Shakti. It exists in all of us. all of us, as what? As the mind principle. See, it's the mind which gives us the waking state. It is the mind which gives us the dream state. It is the mind which gives us the sleep state. Beyond the three states, there is nothing we can talk about as an individual. As an individual, we are what? We are a waker, we are a dreamer, we are a sleeper. Throughout our life, we are experiencing these three states. And these three states is what? It all belongs to the mind. And this Shakti, whatever we call it, is this Maya Shakti is nothing else but our mind. So the substratum of this mind is this consciousness, from where this mind springs up every day for us in Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti avasthas. And this play of Maya is sometimes compared to the innocence of a woman or a child or a blind person or a foolish person. And they are all referring to the intellect, which thinks that it is the body, the intellect which commits an error, thinking that the sense organs are the body, are the Atma, prana is the Atma, indriya is the Atma, dehaha is the Atma, buddhihi iti Atma, or shunyam is Atma. These are all misconceptions of the intellect. It does not mean that Atma has these confusion. Atma has no confusion. It is always asanga swarupaha. So we have seen some of these portions last week. Stri means what? Stri means emotionally overpowered intellect. That is what he refers to. That means a person who is overly, it can be a male or female, it can be anybody. Here he's just using the word Stri. Suppose my intellect is an hostage to emotions in my mind. It will keep on thinking that in this body there are emotions, and because of these emotions, we seek relationships in this world. Not only relationship with people, with the society, and even with God, we tend to strike a relationship. The relationship can be between a child and a mother, it can be guru and a sishya, it can be with anybody. Because of why? Because we are all attached to the body and the emotions. This verse we did last week also, where I said that Arjuna suffered this emotional wreck in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Because he was confused and he was attached to his mind. What does Upanishad say? Upanishad say that your sarupam is ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, agandham. That is what the Upanishad say. You are not the body. Upanishad say that you are something other than the body. So Vedanta, to understand this Vedanta, to understand Atma, one requires to prepare the intellect, and it requires an intellect which is not related to the mind or body or the world. When we purify our mind through the study of Shastra, we are all able to see the body, mind, and the world objectively. This is the difference which the study makes. And one then becomes a jnani. Because of our study of the scriptures and because of the shraddha. The word shraddha, which is there in sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, is a very, very important quality of a seeker. Very important quality. Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. Faith in the scriptures, faith in the guru who is teaching the scriptures, and faith in the God who has revealed the scriptures to us. There is some entity, it is this pure Atma, which is trying to reveal to us its nature. We are all jivas. We think that we are limited to this body and mind. And because of our limitations, we suffer. The scriptures, they try to remove this covering. We discover our real nature by disidentifying with the body and mind as myself. Whenever you want to ask this question, who am I? At that time only we must make use of this knowledge. In our normal transactions, as I said many times before, no need to bring this knowledge of the Atma in daily transactions. All our transactions, morning to night, is with the body. We continue the transactions as they are, and we do the best in our transactions, excel in our transactions, do whatever we need to do. So intellect, which is hostage to the emotions, will not understand Aham Brahma Asmi. It simply means we have to objectify the mind. Balaha. So the first one is emotional mind, which he calls it Stri. And emotional mind cannot understand the nature of Atma. The second word he uses is Balaha, which refers to immature intellect, like a child, undeveloped intellect. So that person, he will require sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. And when he gains that qualification or eligibility, he will understand when the guru teaches him that this is what you are. So a person who has not examined his life is like a balaha. Pariksha Lokan, Mundaka Upanishad verse, you all know, you're all familiar with that, where he says that the Upanishad clearly says, examine what your life is. Understand whether it has given you happiness in life. Understand what are you doing the whole day, what actions you are performing. Examine, introspect. When we become students of Vedanta, very important factor is to introspect, keep analyzing our actions, our emotions, our intellectual convictions, and correcting them as per what the Shastra wants us to believe in. Shastra says that you are the Atma. The intellect has to understand that I am this pure consciousness. So till the time the intellect is able to pick up this knowledge through Shravanam and Mananam, we are all Bala only. We are all immature intellect, but we have to go through this condition. Andaha means unaided intellect. We can also say Andha means blind person. So a blind person will think that the sense organs are Atma, because if I don't have eyes, I cannot see the world. So a lot of people argue that prana is Atma, body, dehaha is Atma. They say manaha iti Atma, all the emotions. They say buddhihi iti Atma. Normally we use instruments like microscope, telescope to examine the different objects. And the instrument which we use to reveal our nature is the scriptures. So if we have the Shastra as our eye to see this Atma, then all of us can realize this. So the words of the scriptures are revealing this ever evident principle of consciousness. The amount of faith I have in my eyes, when somebody says there is an elephant in your room, you see no elephant in your room. So whatever may other person may say, you will deny that there is an elephant in the room, because your eyes are not perceiving that object. You have full faith. The same faith, our ears also. Whatever you hear, yes, I heard this, therefore it exists. So the sense organs are instruments of knowledge, but they are instruments of knowledge for the anatma world. What is the instrument for knowledge for Atma? If you ask, there is only one instrument. Only one. And that is the Veda. See, for example, Punya Papam, Swarga, birth, death, rebirth. There is no proof. For all this, the proof is only the Veda. Eyes cannot see a person being reborn. It cannot see. But Veda says a person is reborn again into the same world, to again goes through the emotions, again comes back. These are all Punya Papam. There is a world, there is a Swarga where you don't have this type of a bodies, we enjoy another type of body. For all our actions, there is a Punyam and Papam, which is Adrishtam. All this is known through the Vedas. And it is the same Veda. So the Veda is nothing else. We have to treat it like an eye and just accept it. Yes, when the Veda says, I am Atma, I accept it. And what is the benefit I get out of this? That once you accept that that is the truth, and it becomes a conviction for us, then we will see the benefit. Then we will see that we are able to objectify the mind. Till then, we are only, okay, for example, many times we have heard, I am the Sakshi principle. I am the witness of all my thoughts. It is something we have heard, but we have to churn that in our mind. We have to own up that Sakshi. This is what is called as Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. There are specific texts which are available for all three. For Shravanam, there is Bhagavad Gita, we have Upanishads. For Mananam, we have a lot of texts like this. Dakshinamurthy Stotram is also a Mananam text. So many texts are available. Aparokshanubhuti is there. Nirvana Shatkam is there. So many texts are there which differentiates Atma Anatma. Vivek Chudamani is a great text. Atma Anatma Viveka. Let my mind dwell, try to understand how to differentiate Atma Anatma, Atma Anatma Viveka. Then there are very high texts which are, even in Vivek Chudamani, there are certain verses which are Nididhyasana shlokas. Bhavaya Atmani, many of you have heard Vivek Chudamani, all the meditation verses, they're all nothing else but Nididhyasana shlokas. Nididhyasana means what? I own up Atma as myself. So the three processes are required. We need to purify the mind by repeated listening of the scriptures. That is one of the best methods of purifying the mind. This is extremely important in Bhagavad Gita. 75% of the verses are only to purify the mind. The description of Atma and how you can achieve realization is only 25% of the Bhagavad Gita. 75% is Yoga part. Brahma Vidya part is 25%. In the Upanishads, is all 100% is purely Brahma Vidya. Brahma Sutras, they have they will be able to connect the Upanishadic mantras and make the intellect clear. All the problems we have in understanding important verses of the Upanishads, they're all dealt in the Brahma Sutras. Every sutra refers to a Upanishadic mantra. It clarifies the Upanishads more and more. When it does that, these are all your confusions get resolved. So this is what I was trying to say is that an intellect which is aided by with the Shastra can understand. An unaided intellect cannot understand or realize this Atma principle. Unaided intellect is called as Andaha, blind. Jadaha, that is a fourth type of intellect, which is the retarded intellect. It's like a child whose intellect is yet to grow. Obstructed intellect. We have all wrong notions. Unnatural intellect. We have a lot of obstacles in our intellect. Very difficult to remove these obstacles. Like, for example, over identification with the body or mind or emotions. This is an obstacle to realize this Atma. So these are the four types of intellects, deficient intellects, which Shankaracharya brings out in this verse. And what happens to these intellects? They form different philosophies. Different philosophers, they come and they say, this is what is the Atma. This is what is the Atma. So Stri is an unreleased emotional intellect. Balaha is undeveloped intellect. Andha is unaided intellect. Jada is obstructed intellect. So we don't focus on the body as a male or female, but we also say that the mind and intellect is the instrument. We have to use this instrument correctly. In our judgments, who I am is a judgment of the intellect. And that is why they say you require a sharp mind, sharp buddhi. And this buddhi is made sharp by studying these texts. It becomes sharp. The more you understand some of these verses, then what happens is Vedanta becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Vedanta emphasizes on transpersonal God. Others, they emphasize on personal God. Other religions. Here we talk about Satchid Ananda Atma. It has got no connection with any type of religion, caste, body, mind, nothing. It is purely transpersonal. Atma is beyond all types of discriminations. So Brantaha means confused people who regard Atma as either a body or the prana or the mind or the intellect, and they differentiate subject object as the truth. The Bheda, these are all called as Bhedavadis. And Bhranti means what? It consists of two things. Aviveka. Aviveka means non-discriminating. That means you are not able to discriminate between the pure consciousness I, the real I, which I am in my intrinsic nature. Even now, it is not that I will be, after I finish all my studies, I will be Atma. No, Atma I am even now. I don't know. My intellect is confused. I'm doing so many actions, but these are all incidental. I need to understand what is my real nature. And because of this lack of discrimination, we have adhyasa. Adhyasa means we superimpose a wrong thing on Atma. So two eyes are required to know the spiritual truth. One is called as the buddhi chakshuhu, which is our intellect, the logical thinking intellect, and the shastra chakshuhu, which is the teaching. The teaching means Tattvamasi teaching. If one of the eyes is missing, we'll be called as blind. Shankara looks at himself, he says, there are confused people who do not have Guru Upadesha. But I'm indebted to the Shastra. Shankaracharya says very clearly that Shastra, that means that Lord Dakshinamurthy is nothing else but the Shastra. Shastra is nothing else but revealing the truth of Atma. It is revealing the self-evident, ever-evident Atma. Always it is there, but I am not aware. So I need to just claim that as that consciousness is through which I am listening to this talk. Consciousness is through which I am speaking. I am doing so many actions, is all boils down to this one awareness, consciousness principle. And that is the only thing which I need to know. Ultimately, there is only one essence which we need to know from all the scriptures, from all the mantras, is I am that consciousness. Maya Shakti Vilasa Kalpita Maha Vyamoha Samharine. Guru is one who destroys Vyamoha. Vyamoha means my intense delusion with reference to myself. That delusion has not come only in this birth. It has been continuing in several births. And Maya has got two Shaktis, which we have seen many times before. One is called as the Avarna Shakti, the wheeling nature. The second is called as the Vikshepa Shakti. Vikshepa Shakti causes confusion. That means it projects what is not there, it projects. A covered rope, for example, the rope is wheeled. That is called as Avarna Shakti. And then my intellect says there is a snake. That is called as Vikshepa Shakti. So what happens is the Guru, he removes the delusions which are caused by self-ignorance. He reveals to me that I am that pure consciousness, and in sleep, it is not that the sleep state we call it as consciousness. We must be very clear. Sleep state is a state of ignorance. What we are saying is that ignorance is witnessed by the Atma. That knowledge I get from the scriptures, and I believe that it is true. Once I believe that is what is my nature, I accept it, I hold on to it, I never forget this fact that I am that pure consciousness, which is a witness of the blank state of the sleep. It is also a witness of this waking state. It is also a witness of the dream state. There is one invariable presence of consciousness in all the three states. This is what is explained in Mandukya Upanishad. invariable factor, the thurium factor. That thurium, I own it. Once I own that, what happens is this entire experiences of waking and dream and sleep, they are taken, and we are not attached to them as our real nature. We take them in our stride. That is the reason why we say that the knowledge of Satchit Atma removes sorrow from life. Why? Because this sorrow is experienced only by the mind. The mind itself is not available in sleep and in dream. Therefore, it is taken as something which is experienced but not real. This is the definition of real and unreal. What is experienced is unreal. Real is something which is Atma, which is always there in three states. That is the discrimination which my intellect should know. In some of the higher texts like Vichara Sagara, very beautiful method of explaining this is also given. What they say is that if you analyze your life, the external world does not disturb you at all. It may disturb you maybe physically, yes, but mentally it will not disturb you, because what disturbs us, what causes sorrow for us in life is our own internal condition of the mind, which is what is called as Jiva Srishti. This is the one which we are creating ourselves throughout our life, from birth to death. Suppose the mind is not active and you're just experiencing the world, it is the Ishvara Srishti which you are experiencing, the vibhutis of the Lord you are experiencing. You are experiencing all the three states which come and go, and you are also experiencing your real pure nature of consciousness. So the Jiva Srishti is all from the human mind, projected by the human mind. Throughout our life, whether we are in Vyavahara, whether we are in doing banking, we are doing surgeries, whatever it is, our eyes, our minds are working on a particular situation. It's always a human mind. And the creation is so beautiful that the human mind is able to not only perform all the transactions, but the beauty is it is also able to drop all this and realize the true self as the Atma. That is the vibhuti of the Lord. Through knowledge, we are able to drop this and ultimately realize our nature, what a creation it is, which is the glory of Bhagavan. The same Satchidananda principle is taught to us, and the buddhi which is involved so deeply in the Vyavahara, at the same time when it goes, which is aided by this Shastra, can understand, has that capacity to purify itself and then see the entire infinite nature of this universe. Atma is not touched by time. Time and space are objects of this pure consciousness. Very beautiful teaching. Therefore, this consciousness is ever there. It's ever evident. It is evident. It is telling us that is my real nature. Okay, so that was about the 5th verse. Now let's enter into the 6th verse. Rahu grasta divakarendus sadrishaha maya samachadanat sanmatrak karanopasamharanato yo bhuta sushupta puman. Pragaswam samiti prabodha samaye yap pratyabhignayate tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Very beautiful verse, which says, then when the functions of the senses are folded up. Look at this beautiful verse. It says, when the function, now here we are talking about the person when he goes to the sleep state. He who enters into a state of deep sleep, he becomes, there becomes existence veiled in Maya. That means he is the pure Sat principle. But he is not aware that he is pure Sat, pure consciousness. So in the sleep state, what happens to the jiva? The jiva, which was playing around in this waking world, enters another condition of the mind, and in that condition, it is veiled by the Shakti of Maya, which consists of tamas. The tamas, which is one of the three gunas of Maya, covers the jiva. How does it cover? Like the sun or the moon, which is covered during eclipse. All of us, we have experienced the eclipse. So when the sun or the moon is covered during eclipse, the same way this pure consciousness jiva, which is what is his real nature. And what happens then? It gets covered, but at the same time, that is a temporary covering. It is not a permanent state. The permanent state is the one which is watching this condition. The seer of the experiencer of the sleep state, that Sakshi principle, is the final, the intrinsic nature of this jiva. And on waking, what happens is he remembers to have slept. All of us, when we get up in the morning, we all remember that we went to sleep. I was there in sleep. I am now in Jagrat. I am now in the waking state. That I, which is invariably present in all the three states, that is my real nature. To him, the teacher who reveals this nature of mine, invariable nature of Atma, that is Sri Dakshinamurti. I prostrate to that Lord. Each of these verses of Dakshinamurthy Stotram are all brilliant verses. First, we understand what its meaning is. Second, we do the mananam. Let it roll in your mind. See, you may listen to this talk, it is just an explanation of the verses, but afterwards you must do mananam. Mananam means it is the second step to realization. First is Shravanam, second is Mananam. After Mananam comes Nididhyasnam. Because in Mananam what happens is, and Mananam will automatically start for all of us. You don't have to do anything. The more we listen, after some time what will happen is the mind will start its own internal analysis. Automatically it will be there. You will start analyzing your life. Oh, is this the way it is? I have got this extra input now from the scriptures. I am that consciousness. Then the mind itself will start asking the question, what is this experience which I'm having? Is this real or is this unreal? What is the real factor? It is me, the consciousness. It is never changing. Maya samachadanat. Sanmatrak. The word here very important is sanmatrak. Sanmatra means invariable factor. Just a quick revision. 1 to 4 was the essence of the Vedanta, which I took it up right at the beginning of the talk. So what it describes is that Kaivalya Upanishad mantra, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, whatever Dakshinamurthy Stotram is revealing as Atma is the same what is revealed in Kaivalya Upanishad, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mai Sarvam Pratishtitam, Mai Sarvam Layamati. All these deficiencies we have already seen, refutation of the Shunyavada. So in this 6th verse, the refutation is done of Shunyavada. Shunyavada means there is one philosopher who says that the entire world is nothing but it is completely non-existence. From non-existence, blank state, the whole waking is seen. So he says Shunyam is the truth. Shunyam means emptiness. So Shankaracharya here in this 6th verse, he is refuting that Shunyavada. And he's saying that you cannot be saying that the whole world comes from blank nothingness. What they call as blank nothingness is nothing but Atma. That is what Shankaracharya is saying. That is, in sleep, you are there. You cannot say that I am non-existent, therefore from non-existence, I am coming every day morning in waking. You have to say I am existent. I am existence principle. So this factor of this Satchit Ananda means what? I am always there, Sat principle. How I am? As consciousness, Chit principle. Sat and Chit, when you say existence and consciousness, in its purest form is Ananda. In its purest form is bliss. In its purest form is beyond time. In its purest form, Satchidananda is beyond space. It alone is. It is non-dual by nature. That is what Shankaracharya is trying to reveal in this 6th verse. So this is the verse I was quoting. This is the central verse of Kaivalya Upanishad. Very, very often quoted verse in the description of Atma. Very often quoted. Here it says that Atma is the Jagat Karanam, cause of this entire universe. And don't look here and there for this Atma. This Atma is me, myself. I am that consciousness. I have to drop everything which I am attached to and own up this being, pure being as my real nature. Aham, aham, aham. This I is an entity. It is a being. It's a state of being. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of pure existence. That's all. That is my real nature. Pure state in which everything is coming and going. Everything is coming and going because of the Shakti, of the power of this Maya, which belongs to this being, pure being. And there is only one being in this, one pure being. Bhagavad Gita reveals it, Upanishad reveals it, Ekam. In the spell of a dream, a fact can never be assimilated. We cannot receive the teaching because of confusions. In dream, you can never know that you are Atma. Because the dream itself is born out of the waker. When you wake up, you say, oh, this dream, it was all in my own mind. So similarly, when we wake up to this Atma, nature of Atma, what we will say is, yes, all this waking state which I experience is nothing else but my own nature. I am that pure consciousness. So the self-ignorance of Atma is the cause, is the spell of Maya Shakti, is the spell. And the more I learn about this self, this Shakti will dwindle. This is what happens when we study. The power of Maya goes away when we have a deep understanding of that pure Atma, that pure consciousness. The more we understand, not only understand, assimilate that knowledge in our mind as our true being, self-evident being, and conscious being. It is not jadam. It is not inert. It is conscious. It is always sentient. That is the sentiency which is there in this body. That is the sentiency I experience in my mind. All the emotions are all that sentiency factor. Without the sentiency factor, I will not have any joy in this world. Because that sentiency is reflected in the mind. Sankshepa Grantha is Dakshinamurthy Stotram, written by Shankaracharya. There is another book written by Sureshwaracharya, a disciple of Shankaracharya, who has also written Naishkarmya Siddhi. Very beautiful. They are very, very advanced texts of Vedanta. And there are 170 verses for these 10 verses of Dakshinamurthy. He has written 170 verses. And in those 170 verses, he refutes the main gist of that 170 verses. It's written in Sanskrit. Translations are available, but very terse text. And the main point he has taken there is all the refutation of all the philosophers in 170 verses. He refutes the logicians, he refutes other Nyaya philosophers, and basically logic-oriented people. He says through logic you can never come to Atma. Only from the Vedas you will know Atma. And once you believe that you are Atma, then you can understand what is logic and you can refute logic. Because it is, unless until you are conscious, you will not be able to even understand what the reasoning is they are talking about. Shunyavadi negates Deha, Prana, Indriya, Shanika Vijnana Vadis. So this Shunyavadi is the one philosopher who says that Deha is experienced only in the waking state. It is not experienced in the sleep state. So it is so Deha is not Atma. Prana is also not Atma because Prana is not experienced. Okay, it may be there in the body. Indriyas are not experienced in the sleep state. So Indriyas are also, they are not the real Atma. Shanika Vijnana. Shanika Vijnana means people who think the buddhi, the intellect has got thoughts. Shanika. Shanika means momentary. Momentary thoughts which come and go. We all have thoughts. Suddenly we will think about going to a cinema. Another 10 minutes later we'll say, I want to have food. Then we'll say we want to read a book. So these are all shanika. These are all the vrittis. They are the vrittis which belong to the sense organs. Like for example, vritti can belong to the legs. It can belong to the hands which want to grasp things. So all the sense organs, they are powered by the mind in the form of thoughts. So some believe that this buddhi is Atma. And what Shunyavada Vadi says is all this is resolved in blankness. So this Vada is called as Prathama Malla Vada, Nyaya Vada. That means if you are a boxer, if you defeat the current champion of boxing, then you become the #1 boxer in the world. So what this fellow does is he has refuted all other Vadis, all other philosophers. So Shankaracharya has to only defeat this Shunyavadi. So in this 6th verse, he defeats this and he says, the basis for the deep sleep state is this Sakshi. The subject world, the subject object, this instrument is not active and it is not experienced in the sleep state. So I am the jiva in this body. I use the mind and this body with all the sense organs as an instrument in the waking state. In the deep sleep state, I am there, still there, but I pull back all this into an unmanifest condition. This is how Shankaracharya explains this Shunyavadis in this particular 6th verse. Seer, seen, duality is not there in sleep. Heard, hearer is not there. The Shunyavadi says that is the ultimate truth, that there is nothing. Deep sleep, what Shankara said is, here I'm trying to explain how this verse number 6 is explained is, the explanation of Shankaracharya with the help of that eclipse. He tries to say that the deep sleep state is not shunyam, it is not emptiness, but it is the pure existence, unqualified existence, which is not available for any transaction. Very important statement, because many of us, we should remember, in order to understand this consciousness, we must analyze the waking state, the sleep state, and the dream state. We cannot own up the consciousness unless our mind internally analyzes the 3 states. You can read the Bhagavad Gita, you can read all the Upanishads, but if your mind has not internalized the 3 states, you will never be able to come to Atma. And when you reach that Atma, what we should say is, I am the awarer, I am the Sakshi of that state. And that is my real nature. That is the nature of this entire, beyond that, there is nothing. The Upanishad says that that state is called as avyavaharyam. Avyavaharyam is one of the descriptions of Atma in Mandukya Upanishad 7th mantra. Shantam Shivam Advaitam Avyavaharyam. That is what here he says is, which is not available for any transaction. It is pure existence. And this is revealed in Chandogya Upanishad as the Sat principle, which was there before creation, which is there now during creation, and it will always be there after the creation goes. That is that single Vastu, which I said, that is where the subject and object, they become one. When they become one, that is called as my real nature. That is the Asipada. That is the oneness. So the entire transactions happen when we have a discrimination between me, the subject, and the world as an object of experience. But there is a higher principle in which both of them, they become one. And that is what is called as pure existence. So pure existence is got 2 conditions. One is qualified condition, which is available for transactions. Another condition which is not qualified, not available for transaction, We make a mistake that is emptiness without Triputi. Triputi means subject, object, instrument. One consciousness. When the light of consciousness falls in the mind becomes Triputi. Immediately, as soon as we wake up in the morning, this is how the beautiful the world is, created by Bhagavan. Subject, I become the subject, ahamkara, the ego, I-ness comes into this body. Immediately, I start seeing the world, objects, and then my instruments. I start using my sense organs. So one light of consciousness splits into subject, object, instrument, which is called as Triputi in Vedanta. So without this Triputi in the sleep state, it is pure existence. With the Triputi, it is the waking state. We make a general assumption that whatever is not available for transaction is non-existent. See, these are all theoretical aspects of understanding our nature. If you understand this, then it becomes easy to assimilate and also own up that pure consciousness has me. Normally, we say that if some object is not available for a transaction, we say it is non-existent. But this is an intellectual confusion. It is a bhranti. It is an error of the intellect. For example, space is emptiness, nothingness, because it is not available for transaction in sleep. Space is not empty. That what Vedanta says is space is a positive entity. It is not available for seeing, hearing, or local use in sleep, but it exists. The same mistake we commit to existence also. Existence is always there. It is a positive entity. So don't talk about nothingness in sleep. Talk about Sat principle in sleep. In short, what we are saying is, there is this Atma in sleep. That Atma is me. That's all. That is the essence of this verse. That is the essence of the argument of Shankaracharya. Aham bhava swarupa asmi. Bhava. This being, that pure being is bhava rupam, not abhava rupam. Abhava means non-existence. Waking dream, all organs of transactions are in functional condition. The 5 jnana indriyas, the 5 karma indriyas, and the antak karnam are in transactional condition. This transaction is nothing else but a vikshepa shakti of Maya. See, what we say is that in the sleep state, again, everything comes back to resolution. Again, in Jagrat, everything comes out. So this manifestation, unmanifestation is nothing else but it is the Maya Shakti which belongs to this pure Atma. Eyes are active when perception takes place. I become seer, I become hearer, I become taster, I become smeller, I become enjoyer, I become doer. All this is in the state of Jagrat. Qualified individual I. It's prominent during transaction. Ahamkara. I am a lawyer. I am a very famous lawyer. I am a great accountant. I am a great dancer. All this is only the ego I. It is not the Atma I. In the presence of Atma, the ego, this is where how the entire creation is by the principle of Atma. This creation is for the punya papa or jivas, but this is the way we understand creation. The subject object division is there, localized, crystallized I is available, with karanams, with instruments in the waking. I enjoy localized existence in waking. I don't have any location in sleep. But it is not non-existence. Non-existence is applicable partially to the seer I. That means not to the total I, which means Atma I. Non-existence is only an intellectual conclusion, but it is not the truth. So this is a little bit more description of the state of sleep, where the Avarna Shakti is dominant. That means Avarna Shakti means the covering nature of the Maya. And the Vikshepa Shakti, that means the projecting power. We don't have any thoughts in sleep. So that means there are no projections coming out. There's no vasanas which are getting projected out, like which happens during the waking state. In the waking state, all the vasanas, they are all activated, and then they have their go. All our vasanas, again, we become a seer here, we become all that individualized I. So when all the organs are gone, it doesn't mean that I am not there. What is left behind is the unqualified seer. The seerhood is a temporary status enjoyed by the ahamkara I. It is only a status. It is enjoyed by the mind. I exist as pure attribute-less consciousness existence. Unparticularized, unqualified, unindividual, unlocated, pure existence is called as samanya satta, generalized existence. Pure means this generalized existence, without any attributes of the intellect. This consciousness is not an attribute of that Satchidananda. It is the nature. When I exist as the unqualified existence, I'm not available for transaction, but I exist as pure consciousness existence. I can't say I want to see or experience that pure existence, because then you are trying to bring that triputi again. General existence is not available for transaction. It is its nature. So transaction or no transaction, I exist. That is what is the refutation of Shankaracharya. I will give you I will continue with this 88th slide next week, where I will give you the meaning of each of these words. Rahu, Grasta, Divakarendu, Sadrishaha. I will explain the word by word meaning. So this, what we have covered is, in this verse, what we are saying is that I exist in two forms. One, as the general consciousness, unqualified, unparticularized, unlocated into Satchid Atma. And I have another status where I am in the Jagrata Avastha with as a mother, father, teacher, sister, society worker, so many things. That is another status. So Ahamkara I and the Sakshi I are very beautifully discriminated in this particular verse. If you can understand the nature of Atma I in sleep state, you will be able to easily identify the mind. Many people have this confusion. How to differentiate between consciousness and mind? This is the central verse. If you can understand this verse, let it go through your mind again and again. Sometimes people may find this too theoretical or too abstract, but it is not so. If you can revise this portion in your own mind, then what happens is that Atma, the light of Atma, gets revealed for you. That is what is called as manana. Okay, we stop here and then we'll take up this 88th slide next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. What does the attributes of the intellect mean or refer to? Rohit, yeah. Rohit, attributes of the intellect are basically the functions of the intellect, buddhi. Can you expand your question? I want to see from what context you are asking this question.
Shaykh, when you were explaining the just now, when you concluded, which says Samanya Satta means pure, which in turn means without the attribute of the intellect.
Yes.
Slide number 88.
Yeah, correct. Okay. See here, what it means is the intellect is a incidental experience for the Atma. In the sleep state, this intellect is not available. So Atma is there. So the attributes of the intellect is absent, as though absent in the sleep state. Whereas in the waking state, what happens is the intellect is very powerful. It can learn, it can understand, it can, it can discriminate, it can do wonders during the waking state. So the state in which the attributes of the intellect are not experienced is called as the generalized state of Atma. Not a particularized state. Particularized state means that where everything is very, very clear. Intellect, body, I am able to see my body, I am evident of my body, I am able to see my intellect, I am able to feel my emotions, I am knowledgeable about all these factors. So the two condition, the two statuses of Atma it is a loosely, this is only to explain to you what is the, to discriminate between consciousness and intellect, buddhi. What we say is that Atma is called as satta, that means generalized, unparticularized existence. Atma has. Atma also has a particularized located existence. That means in the waking state, you are located in Singapore, you are in your house. So in this house is in this street. These are all locations. These are all with reference to the body. And the mind is located. So these are all attributes. Atma has got two. One is pure Atma, which is that is what the Lord Dakshinamurthy is trying to reveal to us, that is your real nature. This, whatever we are experiencing is in our waking state, is meant to reveal that pure state of ours. The whole teaching says that ultimately your pure, self-evident, formless, pure consciousness, existence principle. That is the only thing they are trying to reveal in all these Upanishads. I think I am the body, then I start all my confusions about, with the body identification only, all the relationships come. I'm related to my father, with my mother, with my sister, brother. I'm related to the society, with the identification of the body. But I am able to disidentify with the body when only in my sleep state. And that is what Lord Dakshinamurthy is saying, that sanmatra, in this particular verse, he uses the word sanmatra, means you alone are there. Atma alone is there in that state. So anything happening to the body comes, body goes. Okay, don't worry about the body dying, body being born. It is in the lower plane of consciousness, which is not a, which is, you have a higher nature, which is that pure state. That pure state is that higher nature, which the Bhagavad Gita says that you are not the Deha, you are that Atma. Arjuna was taught about this pure consciousness, that unlocated, objectless existence. Self-evident. Very important thing to remember is there is nothing which is required to make that Atma evident. To see the world, I need the sense organs. To make the world evident, I have to use the sense organs as an instrument. But to reveal that Atma, that I am that pure consciousness, there is no other factor which is required to reveal that. And who reveals it is the scriptures. The Upanishads they are revealing Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, all that in the Upanishads. They're all referring to that pure state. Now is it clear?
Yes, a lot
Okay,
clear. Thank
very
you.
good. Anybody else has any question? Yeah, Venkatesh, you have anything else to add here?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Okay. See, these verses are all revelation verses. They are beautiful verses. We need to understand the meaning, and then just think about it in our own mind, and you will grow in spirituality. Okay.
One last follow-up.
Yeah,
So the attributes of the intellect would then refer to the general cognition, discrimination, and
yes,
so on.
that's
And when it says that the Atma cannot be, it's beyond the realm of understanding using the intellect, is that the part where, in the past, where you've covered this topic, where, or rather, even in the Nirvana Shatkam, it
yes,
says that the Vedas are like understanding the Vedas, the final step, and then the last step is to even drop the intellect.
yes.
And like the pole vault example.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. You
Okay.
see, basically, you drop the intellect as an instrument and use Veda as the instrument. Ultimately, the only thing which you have to use is, and this is where the Shraddha factor comes a lot. That faith in the scriptures, that scriptures are not telling me anything which I don't need. The faith is what is the one which helps you to cross the pole bar. And that time you are using only one instrument. That instrument is the Veda. That's all. You accept the Veda. Even today, for example, right now you can say, I accept whatever the Veda is saying. I am that pure consciousness which I am in my sleep state. That is my real nature. From there only I have taken this body. I experience this world. Again, when I leave this body, I will go back to that state. That is my real nature. What you see, this is what the Veda says. Know your nature as that. That is, if you know that today, you are called as Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means what? I enjoy the world. I enjoy as a Jiva. I enjoy this. But I know that I am not the Jiva, I am the Atma. I realize that my real nature is Atma. And I enjoy the world. I mean, the waking world anyway is available to us. But only when I try to ask this question, who am I, use this knowledge. That's all. Is it clear now?
Yes, Shaykh. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there are no other questions from others, we will continue this text from the 88th slide next week. We have another 3-4 verses. We'll cover that, and we will revise Mandukya Upanishad again, because this particular Dakshinamurthy is very much related to Mandukya Upanishad. In case you have any other suggestions of any other text you want to cover yourself, you can write to me. I will consider it in the future. No, if you want to study something else, but I'll also see what other interests are there for others, and then we'll take up other future texts. Okay, so we'll close as of now. Good night, everybody. Hari Om. Good night.
Yes, Shaykh. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Good night, sir.
Good
Thank you,
night.
sir.
Yeah, good night. Thank you.